What's up, Damien? We're here on another episode, Evolution Now, episode 10, I believe. I'm JJ Wolf, and I'm excited to pass the mic to you. If you want to do a re-intro as well, start this episode off. Glad to be here with you, buddy.
Wolf, always a pleasure. Yes, this is episode 10, a little milestone here. And this particular podcast, we're going to be talking about fitness and nutrition, a little wellness, a little mindfulness, kind of the totality of what it takes to be a high performer. And I'm a big believer. I heard this from Andy Elliott. He's a salesman, entrepreneur. He says, strong body, strong mind, strong business. You work the way up. How can you have a strong mind if your body is motion? How can you have a strong business if your vehicle is not top level? So I really do believe in that. And, there's so much misinformation about fitness and what it takes to get in shape on a practical level. And you go on Instagram, you see everybody with great lighting. Half of them are on steroids. Half of them have been training for 10 years, and they know the angles. They're got a pump, and people can feel lost in the shuffle of everything. And I think the goal of this podcast is to simplify basically what you should be looking at if you want to get in shape. And I'm a big believer, again, can't keep it simple, stupid. You can keep it simple, but this is the journey to getting a really good physique, it can be complicated because you have life, you have energy levels, and you have different calories going in, and then, life happens and so on and so forth. So I think there are four really big principles, four things that will allow you to get into shape. And number one is awareness. Number two is a strategy and a plan. Number three is consistency. And number four is intensity. So starting out, an awareness. If you don't know what you're doing, you can't know where you're going to go. So having a general awareness of what you're putting into your body, how you're training, and overall patterns of behavior is so key. So being aware that, hey, maybe you don't eat as well as you can, maybe you're not as consistent as you should be, and maybe when you're in the gym, you're not bringing the intensity that you need to. That's number one. Number two, having a strategy, one that works. You can go to the gym all you want, but if it's not a strategy that's helping you get stronger or better, there's some benefit, but ultimately you're wasting your time. And what happens is when you come up with a good strategy, a good plan, it takes the anxiety out of your brain. Because when you have we are bipedal creatures that have a targeting system. So when you go, hey, I want to be able to bench 225 pounds, or I want to get to this weight, it starts to let your mind go, okay, that's the goal, and we're going to move toward that goal. And when you move toward that goal, you start to create positive emotion. Consistency. I have the saying, discipline and consistency applied in a way you never have before will bring you places, results, and abilities you've never experienced before. And that's so true, because you can't look to the past for what's capable in the present. You can't look to the past for what you can do in the future when you consistently find your power in the present. And again, intensity. When you're pushing hard. When you're really in a workout and you're giving your best and you're hitting personal records, or at least you're showing up, you're giving 100% at 70% if that's where you're at. So I want to kind of just jump in to the strategy and the plan. Most people that I see in the gym, again, this is just from my limited perspective, I don't see people tracking workouts. You'll see a few cats in the gym with a notebook or in their phone tracking workout. But to me, the intensity comes down to what's the weight you were training at last week. And really the goal of the workout is in the extra rep at the end of the set, or the extra weight that you put into the set. So if you don't know where you were last week and you're just kind of going off feel, granted, not everybody wants to have a six-pack. Not everybody, wants to be really strong. Some people are just there.
I'd love to jump in if I know
please.
presentation. One thing that I would say is that people have different goals, right? So if one person's goal is general fitness and being fit, and another person's goal is to have a six-pack, and another person's goal is to increase visible muscle size, those are very different pathways, right, towards goals that are all in the physical fitness spectrum. So for me, I'll be very honest, I live a high intensity lifestyle. Like I just go hard. Like I'll pick up 6 bags at once. I'll go, fix something, whatever it is. Like I'll move a fridge by myself. And so I've been able to maintain a decent physique just by being kind of intense. And in periods of my life, I do a lot of skateboarding to get 1 mile or 2 miles to the grocery store or the pizza place or to whatever place, cafe, or I'll ride my bike 10 miles. Or I was in Miami last month and I was riding an average of 100 miles a week or more. But what I would say is that recently I've gotten back into going to the gym. A friend of mine, we've been consistent about going to the gym 3 times a week for a few weeks. And for me, I've been going on feel. I have tracked workouts in the past, but right now, my goal is to get there and to be busy. I know when I'm tired. I know when I'm exhausted. I know when I'm on my 4th round of an exercise. And so right now, my goal is just to make myself tired. If it's not tired, it can be worked. If it's tired, give it a day, And so for me right now, it's just about make myself fucking sore and work my fucking ass off and be busy. Don't be someone standing in the corner messaging on my phone or scrolling Instagram at the gym. If I'm at the gym, I'm busy and I'm working, And so for me, my goal is a volume of action versus a specific measurement. However, if your goal is to see increase in capability, whether it's I'm right now I can run 2 miles in 20 minutes and I want to be able to run 5 miles in 30 minutes. Or if it's, hey, I'm benching 110 and I want to be able to bench 170, or, if I measure, my bicep is 25 centimeters or 40 inch, I want it to be 40 inches. I don't know. You're not going to have a 40-inch bicep, but, whatever it is, those measurements, that's where somebody like you, who's an expert in this field, is such an invaluable asset to share this kind of information, because you have the tools where if somebody wants to target their biceps or their core, you know how to say, okay, well, that's a matter of measuring your reps, measuring your sets, measuring the consistency week over week, increasing the amount of weight, increasing the amount of reps. And that's where the measured targeting comes in. And that's why I love talking to somebody like you about those targeted gains and specific goals. And so thanks for letting me rant about my general goal of getting fit by doing a volume of effort. And I'd love to just pass the mic back to you to continue on that trajectory.
Yeah, no, and thanks for sharing. That's a great point of like, go to the gym and be busy. Don't be on your phone. If you're on your phone, it better be tracking. But having a vision and having a target, that comes to the strategy and the plan. Now, you can have a vision, which is like, hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I saw Predator when I was like an 8-year-old, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to act. I want to be in shape. That's good. You have that in your head, and you don't want to be that person, but you want to emulate them, versus always being on Instagram, always being on social media, and being distracted by people who are so much further down their fitness journey than you, and then feeling kind of like deflated of like, why don't I look like that? Why, how much time goes into doing that? And so it's good to have a vision, but don't let that vision become a distraction. And in terms of like consistency, we all have let's say, a ceiling to how consistent we've been. And this comes down to habits, right? And this is something I really believe in, is creating full cycles of behavior. What does one day of efficient eating and intense training look like? What does that look like? What does it look like when I wake up? Is it meal prep? Is it being able to cook meals all during the day? What does that look like? And what does the training look like? Next, secondarily, what is a week? What does 7 days of consistency look like? And within that week, is there one rest day? Is there pockets of renewal built in so that you don't burn out? That's great. So once you establish what an efficient day looks like, you repeat it. And then you have a week. And so you have this blueprint. And then obviously 4 weeks is a month, and you do a month. And at some place, you're going into the unknown, the proverbial chaos. So being able to contextualize, I haven't been this consistent. Maybe my brain's going to look for ways to sabotage. And in terms of cycle of behavior, I've gone through years without having a cheat meal, without having a cheat day, with eating the same stuff and being that disciplined. And what happens is the habit matures where it becomes part of your autopilot. And the trick is to make that autopilot, but to be able to still practice the intensity of not going through the motions, of getting 1 rep better, of getting you know, adding some weight to your sets or adding sets, whatever it is to that progressive overload. If you're trying to build muscle or trying to cut down or whatever you're trying to do, but creating those full cycles of behavior. And this is what I know. At some point, all of us, when we're training or we're dieting or whatever, there's going to be a lapse of motivation. There's going to be the opportunity to quit, the opportunity to cheat. But those lapses of motivation are also an opportunity to build mental strength. So if you see someone that's in really good physical strength, chances are that they have a six pack of the mind, the thing that we do on this podcast. How do you harden the mind? Because it's not the action that's going to stop you. It's the anticipatory effect of you dreading that action of oh man, I got this workout or I have to diet today. I can't. You make a judgment. The second you make a judgment on your day, you take yourself out of the present. You're anticipating. You're not being. And when you're really present, you're able to kind of take those waves of the uncertainty, of the unknown, if you're further into your fitness journey, and you're able to make a different choice. You're able to build mental toughness. Because like you were saying before we started the podcast, you felt like a lot of stress has been piling up and you have to remind yourself and shift your mindset. And so much in that same way, when you're going on a cut, you're trying to get shredded, you're trying to build strength, you're trying to establish new habits of behavior, you need to look for those lapses of motivation, because the more you can be aware of, okay, it's coming, the wave is coming, and you're able to just take that wave on and get through it, you're creating a new cycle of behavior where you're able to overcome that lapse of motivation and build mental strength that will allow you to have a full week, have a full month, have a full season, have a full year. And that way, that comes down to context, right? That's the macro. You zoom out on your life and you go, man, I this whole year I've been dialed in. You have a trail of evidence. So when you slip up or you have to cheat or you need a cheat meal or you eat a little more or you miss a workout, you can look back and go, you know what? I've established enough of a pattern of behavior to know that I can fall back in. So I'll throw it to you, because like you said, you've been going to the gym and kind of getting back into the hustle, and you're a yoga guy. So in terms of consistency, where do you find yourself? Like after 3 months, you kind of fall off. After 6 months, what's your journey look like?
That's a great question. I would say the last few years I've had a very unique circumstance where I've been in a quasi travel state for over 3 years now. I came to Costa Rica February 2020, just before the pandemic started, and yeah, every about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, I've had to move. And so in those times, it takes me a few weeks to get into a rhythm. And then I'm able to keep things consistent sometimes for up to 6 or 8 weeks. But I do find that consistency has been challenging. A good friend of mine, Damien Chinappi, a couple of years ago had asked me if there's anything that I do consistently every single day without fail. And I said, no. And he said, well, you like to play guitar. Why don't you play guitar 30 minutes every day and just do that every single day? And I said, well, I can't really do anything in 30 minutes. He said, no, you're telling yourself that. See what you can do if you're consistent. And actually, that led to a lot of personal growth in a lot of different ways. And I did that for about 2 months, every day, 30 minutes. If I miss a day, it's like don't miss twice, right? I miss a day, get it back on the track the next day. Around that same time, I also started to meditate, a simple 10 minutes silent meditation, just like kind of no thoughts, focusing on clear mind and focusing on my breath, and sitting cross-legged 10 minutes a day. Do it mostly in the morning, drop down, sit for 10 minutes, or in the evening, and so yeah, just to answer the question the most simple way, consistency I've mastered maybe 2 months and a go, and that has been limited by my lifestyle and housing situations.
Which is super hard. I mean, moving around and creating that security of habit in a different environment, that, it's like influence. When you're in a spot and you get good habits, you're able to influence your environment. When you go to a new place, the environment can influence you. Hey, try this new restaurant. Let's go exploring. Yeah, jump in.
So sorry, there's a truck going by. We're outside the window that's right here. You can anyway. Love this background, huh? This is my new office space. This is actually the vision board of the office that we're going to create for Golden Rock Media headquarters in Miami.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like the exposed beams. So what I wanted to mention is last year on New Year's, I told myself, okay, I'm doing Uh, I I started with, what was it? No coffee, no alcohol, and no THC. And I did no alcohol. I did for 2 months. No THC. I did for 3 months, and no coffee. I did for 6 months last year. I was allowing myself to have raw chocolate powder, pure cacao powder with honey. Like make like a drinking chocolate, strong drinking chocolate. I would also have teas and mate, which is the caffeinated drink from South America. And but I did 6 months without coffee, and I don't know if that counts as a consistency of habit, but that for me was a self control in a big way. And then also I've taken a few months here and there off alcohol. Like last October, I did a sober October. I believe I did a sober January this year. I did a sober June last year. This year I also did a sober April.
Yeah, and those are good. That's like being, hey, I control the urges of my brain; they don't control me. So that's super smart. And the more times you do that, you come back to that pattern and go, hey, I did a sober October in 2020. I'll do it again this year. I'll do it again next year, whatever. But talking about creating certainty in new environments, like I always meditate. I've every day since I think it was July 12th, 2019, I've hit this meditation. It started off as 12 minutes. I cut it down to 6 minutes, but every day I've never missed a day. It's always been a staple that's allowed me to create certainty in different environments. And that's mental strength of being like, I'm in a new place and there's all this stimuli and new exciting stuff. And you're going, okay, let me ground myself in the habits that make me feel secure. And meditation is one
Certainty
for
in
me.
different environments. I love that. Certainty in different environments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're influencing the environment to kind of like terraform to your habits, which I kind of like. It's gives a cool like metaphysical picture. But coming back to the context and the perspective, if you know your longest consistent period is 2 months, once you get to that 2 months, you need to be aware for that urge to quit or to jump off. Now, granted, there's something to be said about balance and appropriateness. So I wanted to talk about cheat meals and cheat days. So if your goal is to get shredded, you want to get a six pack, it's just, I mean, it's an easy goal to talk about. I would advise anyone no cheat meals for 3 months. Because here's what happens. It's taken me years to be able to, like now I do pretty much every weekend I eat some donuts, and I never used to do that. Reason being is that habit of discipline, it was like an all or nothing thing. And if I had something sweet, that was it. It was like I'd fall out of my routine but building those habits of going, man, I created enough evidence to know that I can fall right back into my nutritional protocols after having something sweet. It's almost like a butterfly. I've heard this analogy. If a caterpillar goes into its cocoon and it doesn't, and light gets into the cocoon, it will kill it until it's 80% formed. So however many days it is for it to really cocoon up and then to form. Once light breaks in, if it's not 80% formed, it will kill it. And I believe that's the same way with patterns of nutrition specifically. So being able to say, hey man, no cheat days, no cheat meals for 3 months. And initially your brain's going to make a judgment. I can't do that. What's the point? This, and that, versus breaking through that illusion and being able to find better choices that this nutritional habit can mature. Like to your point of, no alcohol for a month, or not that. The guitar thing, right? Hey, play guitar for 30 minutes. You made a judgment. I can't get anything done, right? And that reinforces the illusion that that's not enough time. But you broke through that illusion and you saw the truth, which you could do a lot in a half hour. It's more time than you actually think. And, having that awareness, that's where it comes back to awareness, that your mind's going to make judgments that's going to keep you in a similar place. And that the more you can be aware of these things, the more you can break through them, and you create
awareness. Awareness is number one. You can't change something you can't see. You can't hit a target that you haven't defined. Being able to, in self-awareness, just like being aware of whatever it is, whether it's, a big thing for me, in this is a bit of a tangent, but basically, I grew up with a single mom who, she was the worst interrupter in the world. She would just barrel over people in conversation, and big heart. My mom loved people so much, but she just didn't have the self-awareness to listen. She had a lot of anxiety, and so she was at the edge of her seat. And so it's taken me many years to even get to the point where I'm at now, which I still think I interrupt too much. But it's also like, hey, if we're having an animated conversation, my favorite conversations are like a continual interruption because the other person's brain is so lit up and already knows where you're going. So it's like a series of interruptions where you're like, they're already at the end of your sentence because they know your train of thought. And then you're just jumping leaps and bounds through like a psychological journey of thought and inquiry or whatever that brainstorm might be. But some people can't handle that. They're very linear thinkers. Some people are more tangential. And then I love, like, I open a lot of cans of worms with tangents, and then like kind of like the cycles of causation. Like I like a conversation
Looping.
that, like, it loops back throughout the entire thing. Like we might in the first 10 minutes open 10 tangents, talk for 2 hours, and by the end finish 8 tangents, but have figured out, like, so much. But anyway, self-awareness is where that journey begins, to be able to say, oh, people tell me I interrupt, and maybe I need to have some awareness in how to control myself. So the power just went out in this cafe that I'm in, because it's raining like buckets here. It's monsooning. I'm in Costa Rica. It's July. But the backup power just kicked in, and the Wi-Fi router's still going, and my laptop has full battery. So we'll see how far we go.
Cool. Cool. And yeah, that awareness is key. Don't be careless with your awareness. And to me, the little moments are never little. They're the big ones, because the little moments are the moments you're going to repeat. Oh, I'll have that extra bite. Oh, I'll skip that last set. Oh, I'll skip the gym. And they happen when you're relaxed. You relax, right? So I always say relax into the next level. If it's just as easy to skip it, engage with the new habit, right? So if you are careful and mindful with those small little moments, and that you make harder choices, again, you're creating patterns of behavior that empower you. And then when they're strung together, you just build mental strength.
Building mental strength. Absolutely. That comes from the consistency. Hey, so just a little tech chat here mid podcast. Question. I'm curious, on your end, do you have a record button on Zoom?
I do.
What happens if you press it on your end?
Permission needed from host. I'll send the request.
Allow recording. And then does it say computer or cloud on your end? Give you an option? Or is that maybe recording?
It just says recording.
Cool. And just for another tech question, what's your setup? You got a MacBook Pro on Intel? What do you got?
Dell Inspiron 14.
Okay, yeah. And how tech savvy are you? Are you aware of how much space you have on your hard drive? How much RAM you have?
No.
None of that? Okay.
None of that.
All right, so we'll get there. We'll do a screen share. We'll do like a tech Tuesday or something. So yeah, man, laying bricks of consistency to build mental toughness, not being careless with your awareness. Hey, the power just came back on.
Boom. But that to me is what's interesting about going into the unknown of developing an ability or crafting a physique or a business, is that illusion, which is carried by the vehicle of judgment. You want to jump to conclusions to simplify when it's not simple. You're going into the unknown. You just don't know how your brain's going to try to self-sabotage and keep your life's temperature at the same kind of homeostasis. But what happens is, if you're able to break through that illusion of I can't enough times, you dispel that illusion, at least in one area, and you go, well, no, I can keep going. I can keep dieting. I can keep training. I can stay consistent. And coming back to the context of the macro, you have that trail of evidence, but it's built in the micro, right? Like like I was saying, the small moments aren't small.
Hey.
That extra rep at the end of your workout, is the most important part. It can make your workout. You can be tired, you can be late to the workout, but you're there and you know that there's this golden little opportunity. Wow, it's pouring out there.
Yeah.
There's this golden opportunity.
Despite the challenges, golden opportunity.
If you push through, you're creating the blueprint that you persevere, and that you give that extra effort. And that the next time you come upon that little moment, your brain's going to go, oh no, we're building this new part of us that breaks through, that puts forth the energy. I like the idea of not willfulness, but willingness. If you engage with the thought that I have a willingness, I can find more energy, and you will find it.
Yes, going into the depths, knowing that there's always more, right? Like that's the David Goggins thing. He was talking to, I don't know if this was the guy Jesse Itzler, the guy with the gray curly hair. He's a little older. I forget his. I think it's Jesse. But anyway, I think he was on Joe Rogan. He's talking about hanging out with David Goggins, maybe him, maybe somebody else, but the story's accurate. But basically, the person is describing doing pull-ups with David Goggins. David Goggins asked him, "How many pull-ups do you think you can do?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe 12." He's like, "All right, we'll see." Guy gets to like 9, and David Goggins starts yelling at him. The guy ends up doing like, I don't know, like 25 pull-ups instead of 12, you know? And so it's just that concept of, hey, let's bring down the saturation on this background. Boom. And so it's just that concept of like, there's always more. And it's evolutionarily beneficial to always keep a little in reserve. Because if we went to our maximum edge before without any restraint or without any resistance, we would fail too soon, right? And that's where the brain and body connect, where the brain is estimating our limitation. You know, when does the fuel light come on, right? That fuel light coming on is that feeling of like, okay, I just did 12 pull-ups. I think if I do another one, I'm going to die. That's the brain protecting the body. And then that's where the body and this willpower, where we overcome our brain with our conscious mind, probably our prefrontal cortex, and we overcome our body's resistance to pushing harder. And instead of doing 12, we do 25. 12 pull-ups.
Right. And you open up that cognitive territory of that high gear. Now, again, it's more complicated than that, because if you're always going to failure, you're not taking care of yourself, right? And you can't. David Goggins is a legend. He's the exception to the rule. Now, I'm not saying you can't get something from that 100%, but knowing your acceptable standard and not trying to destroy yourself. Like I know some guys, every time I leave the gym, if I'm not destroyed, I'm not happy. And I'm like, well, that's just a bad blueprint, because you're going to burn yourself out, versus like having the
whenever the right moment is. I would love to jump in on that concept.
Jump in.
All right. Well, there's just this lens to look through this. So say somebody, their point of failure is, 30 pull-ups, and they do 35 pull-ups, 2 sets on a Monday, and they're fucking burnt. They can't do any pull-ups on Tuesday. So they don't do pull-ups until Wednesday. But somebody else does, 5 sets of 20 pull-ups on Monday, or even 8 sets of 10 pull-ups, or actually better yet, they do a total of 50 pull-ups on Monday, but they don't go to burnt failure. And then they're able to do 50 pull-ups on Tuesday, and they're able to do 50 pull-ups on Wednesday. At the end of the day, Wednesday, that person's done 150 pull-ups, whereas the person that's too burnt to do pull-ups on Tuesday is not going to do as much work in volume. And so that's another theory. I'm not sure if I articulated it as well as I could. I need to rework talking through that. But the concept is, if you put yourself to burnout, you're not able to do as much work as the person that is consistently going to 70 or 80% every day or every session.
100%. And that's about, look, if you can train 80% every day versus 100% 3 times a week, it's about not burning out, having the balance. The context and the perspective creates the balance of knowing, like, hey, man, the people that go super intense, super hard for like a burst of weeks, they're not there year round. They're not playing the long game. And in their mind, I would estimate that they're going, well, while I'm here, I'm going to go really hard because I know I'm not going to be here in 3 months. Versus the guy that's going to be consistent has the confidence to hold back and to leave some reps in the tank, because he knows he's coming tomorrow. He knows he's going to be there on Wednesday. He knows he's going to be there next week, following week, and so on. So it's having like I said, having that vision and building those habits that allow you to stay balanced enough to be consistent. having the awareness of going, man, if I burn myself out all the time, I'm going to be a pile of ashes, versus being able to catch fire and rise like the proverbial phoenix. But it's the awareness of like, look, and also in your analogy, you don't know how long the guy that can do 50 pull-ups every day, maybe he's been training for 12 years, you know? Maybe the guy that just sees that, and there's so much. I mean, you see somebody in great, you see somebody that looks great, you see what their workout regimen is, you go, well, what do you do? What do you eat? That's not a good question to ask. It can give you a frame of reference. But if someone's been training for 10 years and they just start doing what, and another guy's been training for a year,
lifestyle.
It's not gonna.
It's lifestyle, and that's the biggest thing is, especially in like Atomic Habits. I quote this book a lot with James Clear. It's not about this, the specific action or counting the actions or having a goal of like, okay, I want to build the habit of going to the gym 3 times a week. It's about embodying the identity. I am somebody who goes to the gym 3 times a week. And that extrapolated out over 6, 12, 18, 24 months, a period of years, is going to lead to being a fit person. There's no shortcuts. I always like to say to people that the best workout plan is the one that you do. Because it doesn't matter if you've got, like I'm on a keto diet and I'm focused on, sprints, and I'm working on, releasing growth hormone and this and that, and I'm there working on my abs. Like it's just about doing the work and picking a plan and executing on the plan. I actually took a note to myself this morning. There are 2 real estate deals that I was trying to work last year and this year. I didn't bring all the way over the line. And I was asking myself, I had this realization this morning, is that I didn't fail to succeed in those real estate deals because I was asking the wrong question or trying to attain the wrong goal. I failed in those deals because I didn't ask the question the right way. I didn't reach out for support in the right way because I didn't really finish the pitch decks that I knew I should. I was just hoping that it would come true because I was so overwhelmed by all these other projects that I'm working on. Now, there's a wave of like moisture coming in the room right now, so I have to jump up really quick. There's so much wind and rain coming into this space right now. I just bought this new MacBook. Fuck me.
Talking about storms, you're actually in one.
What the fuck? Yeah. Shut up, Siri. What the fuck? Pause. Hold on. Fuck. Where are you going? I'm trying to get away from the fucking open window, man. It's raining on me. $2,000 fucking dollars on his new laptop. Right. Okay. Yeah, it's too many cushions, man. Not enough space. Huh? Too many cushions. I'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then get rid of the others. Because sometimes, like I've even seen people look over here, and it's like it feels, it's like hard to get in because there's so many cushions. All right, where's it? Okay, still recording, motherfucker. No matter
You
what
good?
the challenge, man. Kinda. I've got a shaking dog on my lap. It's okay. It's all right. He's good. You're good. You're good. All right, I'm gonna get rid of this virtual background. It's been fun to kind of go in and out. I'm really excited on the creative edge of like, what are we doing with the production of this? Because like so many people have like really clean, manicured backgrounds, and it's like, well, you can't record a podcast unless you have a podcast recording studio, and it's like, fuck you, let's have a conversation. And anyway, So this is going to take some editing to make this episode consumable, but that's what I specialize in. But this is my little dog, Raya. Say hi, Raya.
Hi, Rhea.
She's a little scared when it's like heavy rain and we were in
She looks so.
She's cute.
She looks a little freaked. Yeah, she looks a little freaked out.
She is a little freaked out. She hasn't been on a leash in like 2 weeks. And so I had her tied up under the table.
Damn.
She's cute. Anyway, I didn't grow up with dogs. I always wanted a dog, and it's been a funny journey too because I'm like, there's so many things I want to do in my life, and I saw her in the middle of the road 6 months ago, and I just threw her in my truck. I said, I'm gonna take you home, scrub you up. I don't know if I'm gonna have you 4 days, 4 months, or forever, but I can help you out right now. And
Here she is.
yeah. But anyway, Damien, I love just this factor of dealing with stress and overcoming challenge to hit the goal no matter what. Like right now I could say, hey, let's cut the recording, or hey, let's do this again, let's re-record episode 10, but it's like that's not reality. Reality is us in the moment doing this thing.
Yeah, and you're making a mentally strong choice to continue on despite the circumstances, which again, like your brain's always patterning and blueprinting. Like this isn't the only time you're going to get caught in the rain, but if you made the weak choice of shutting it down and running away, the next time you get in a rainstorm, your brain's going to, what did we do last time? Let's do that again versus, create the trail of evidence that you're stronger than your emotions and you're stronger than your circumstances.
Create the trail of evidence that you're stronger than your emotions and stronger than your circumstances. Beautiful, man. So true. One thing with the Wim Hof and the cold exposure, so much about cold exposures coming into the mainstream hardcore right now. But one of those things I was actually with a guy named Rob Lenfesti. I was in North Carolina, and he runs a chocolate company out of his own property called Mandala Chocolate. Amazing, the best chocolate in the world. But he teaches some of the Wim Hof stuff, the breathing, breathwork trainings. He's, anyway, he's a brilliant mind. But he has a cold river behind his house. He does cold plunges. And one of the things about doing cold plunges is when you're in the state of shock is telling yourself, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything's okay. And when you're telling yourself that, when you're in a state of shock, it trains your body to deal with stress in a strong way, and to say like, oh, it's just a little bit of stress. I'm okay.
And that really speaks to something that, like, in my own head, when I've gone through intense things in my life, I've never been like, oh, that was too much. You again, like in those moments, in those intense moments, you really have to craft the narrative. Use that prefrontal cortex to go, man. Like when I'm training, I go, I fucking love lifting weights, and I feel like I had a pretty savage leg day today, and I missed my workout on Monday, so I made it up yesterday. So it's back-to-back heavy days. And it was a bear today. And I'm doing hack squats and my leg's shaking and it's intense. I'm tired. But at the end of my set, I didn't go, oh, that hurt. I went, I fucking love lifting weights, man. And the more you can repeat that thought in those intense moments, when you revisit those moments of intensity, your brain's going to cycle back. We fucking love this shit. And, love is the strongest emotion that you can embody in an intense situation. Because you can use force and break through and overcome shit. But if you can love the intensity, if you can love the storm, you're going to do 20 times better than the person that's like forcing themselves to overcome.
You got to love the storm. You got to
love the storm. And there's a part of the psyche that loves the storm. It's a very primal, raw, untapped part of your personality. But the more you can engage with that part of your brain, when you find yourself in a storm, you're gonna act a lot stronger. You're gonna have the willingness to deal with the storm, to put forth the effort that's gonna bring you to a different place.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, thank you for your presentation. I'm not sure if you're still working through your framework. As we are evolving constantly, we keep growing on our pursuit of being our best, developing evolution now, developing what this means to deliver powerful information for people, helpful information. And so one of those things is developing the ability to give a great presentation. And so one of those things is knowing, okay, if I have 5 bullet points, that means it's 10 minutes per bullet point, whether with a watch or a clock in front of you on a famous keynote stage. So I would just love to ask you, do you have anything more that's in your outline that you want to share, or should we open it up to some questions? Because I do have some questions I'd love to ping you on.
Yeah, no, I pretty much got through my framework. Fire away.
Okay, so you've talked about a lot of conceptual ideas about how to approach the mindset of working out, the consistency of routine, the frameworks to look at time and action. And so the question I would ask you is, what are some of your top tactics that you would share for specifics? So if somebody has a dad bod and wants to have a six pack, and they want to set themselves a timeline goal, whether it's 30 days or 6 months, what are your best tips and strategies and actionable processes in a measurable way that somebody can then, use your ideas in a tangible way to make action and make change in their life and in their physical body?
Great question. Dad bod, want to get a six pack. Okay, 30 days, you're not going to get a six pack. I don't care what anyone says. You're not getting a six pack in 30 days. You're probably not getting a six pack in 3 months. Let's just be honest. Easy on, easy off. If it was easy, everyone would have it. There are basic characteristics. There are foundational principles to adhere to if you want to do that. Everybody has abs. We all know they're covered by fat, right? So 3 things that you'd want to do. Resistance training 3 times a week. You can have a chest and back day, you can have an arm and shoulder day, and you can have a leg day. That's the bare minimum. Cover your entire physique. Do not skip leg day. Number 2, aim for 10,000 steps a day. Get out, get moving. And number 3, track your calories. Figure out what you're eating, how much calories you're currently eating, and then you want to eat at a caloric deficit. You structure your meals around lean protein sources. That's going to help you build muscle. It's going to keep you full and satiated, and you backfill the rest of your calories. Typically, you hear, a gram of protein per pound of body weight, of your targeted body weight. And you can take your current body weight, multiply it by 15. That should give you a baseline understanding of your maintenance calories. And if you want to cut, depending on how aggressive, and I would say don't go too aggressive, you take your body weight, multiply it by 12. And then that'll give you your basic cutting formula. But you need to get messy and get better, building the awareness of how you need to make adjustments. Because there's no one size fits all. And whatever season you're at in your life, if you're hitting at least 10,000 steps, 3 resistance workouts a week, and within those workouts, you are intense, you're tracking, and you're using progressive overload, meaning you're adding reps or you're adding weight, and you're understanding okay, if I benched 135 for 10 this week, I'm going for 12 next week, or I'm going for 150 pounds for 8 reps. Whatever. And you can go into the minutia all you want in terms of sets and reps and weight and all that. But being intense and being intentional about what you're trying to do. And again, it's all predicated on having the awareness that at some point in this journey, your mind is going to self-sabotage. It's going to want to go back to what it knows until what it knows is breaking through. So just to paraphrase, that's it. To paraphrase, 3 resistance workouts a week with a good strategy, 10,000 steps a day, and track and weigh your meals with a focus on lean protein sources and hitting a caloric deficit if you want to hit a dad bod. And expecting, hey man, look, I'll get some progress right off the bat, but if you want really good abs or you want a sharp physique, it's going to take years. It's not just 6 months. That's why it becomes a lifestyle, and you're not picking that destination. I mean, I don't like saying, hey, once I hit this weight, I'm good. You want to pick habits because the habits are endless. The habits become your reality. They become your lifestyle. Because if you have an end goal and you hit it, oh man, I want to weigh 180 pounds and I weigh it. Your brain's going to go, okay, we made it. Let's go back to where we were. And you're going to repeat that macro cycle, that Halley's Comet, right? 6 months I'm in shape, and then I go back and it's another 6 months and you're just doing this yo-yo thing.
Macro cycle, Halley's Comet, man. I love that. Orbits. Last conversation we had I think I said something about orbital progress. Do you remember what that was?
No, but I think we've touched upon that. But that's a good way to think of it, like a revolution, like a planet around different seasons.
Yeah, and then like you said, like the macro cycles, like the cycle of 2 years or 4 years. I often think about that when I reflect on my timeline of life, and then how everything, people are ageist, like when you're 20, you think 30 people who are 30 are getting old, and when you're 30, you think people who are 20 who don't know shit, or when you're a teenager versus teachers, when you're 42 and you're looking at a kid. thinking that kid doesn't know shit, or when you're a kid and you're thinking like, I know everything, and it's all relative, right? Because basically when you're 10, 1 year is 10% of your life. When you're 50,
Yeah.
1 year is 2% of your life, and so everything is relative to what's already been experienced. But when we think about orbital relationships of time, I think about like, okay, when I was 18, I just finished a 4-year experience called high school. Then when I was 22, I went, oh my God, it's been that same period again. Now at 32, I think, okay, it's been, 3 or 4 cycles since that. I don't even think in that kind of cycle anymore. However, it's 2023. I moved to Miami in 2019, and I have been thinking like, wow, it's been 4 years. It's been a high school cycle since I had that chapter of my life, but it feels like it was just yesterday. But it's cool to reflect in those bigger macro cycles. Like, okay, what am I doing every 2 years? Just to throw out a few other random things. One thing I came across this book. Have you heard of the 12-week year? You would love it. It's a really cool concept where this guy, I forget the author's name, but basically the concept is instead of thinking in quarters and thinking in 365 days, it's too long a time horizon to make accurate projections and predictions. And so the reason most people fail in their annual goals and set huge targets on New Year's is because it's like you feel like you have a lot of time. And then you get to June, and you go, oh, okay, the time window's closing. It's to September, October, November. And that's why people crunch in November, December to hit their targets for the year. Well, what they suggest is instead of having a 12-month year, you have a 12-week year. And so you set your timelines in this 12-week framework and look at it as a year. Like, how would you think of a year? Well, let's do that in 12 weeks.
Ooh.
Powerful.
Oh, that's really powerful.
Really
That's
cool.
great. Yeah, that's
And
great.
the book, there's a lot of insights. And he's got a great. I read the book a couple years ago, and then I noticed he's got a new sales funnel up where he's trying to bring people into the online cohorts, and like you learn with their program and get the coaching and buy more books. But it's brilliant, man. It's brilliant. And that's an example of like the 10X rule or like high performance habits by Brendon Burchard. You invent a concept and then you become the kingpin of that concept. So like literally Brendon Burchard, he's able to say, I'm the #1 high performance coach in the world because he invented the term high performance coach. Grant Cardone coined 10X rule. So he is the leading expert in the 10X rule in the world. Same thing with 12-week year. If you're referencing 12-week year, that's a concept he invented, right? So I'm loving just like I love brand in that way. And I really believe that as soon as all of my systems are online, in the sense of having my schedule on lock, my 12-week year, my calendar, my consistency, my schedule, my routine, my housing is a little bit more grounded. I feel like I'm primed to go, ballistic, to go stratospheric, to go intergalactic with my visions for what I want to create in my life. And looking at it in stacked chapters, because I've, for a long time I used to look at, okay, well, I got there's 168 hours in a week, 24 times 7. You sleep 56 of those if you get 8 hours a day. So anyway, there's 112 hours left. What are you doing with those 112 hours? How much time you spend cooking, cleaning, washing, socializing, drinking, whatever it is? And, Brian Tracy says the average number of hours that the self-made millionaire works is 59 hours, or it might be this average CEO, 59 hours a week. And basically 40 hours a week is maintenance. Anything over 40 is how you get ahead. And we have 112 waking hours. So you talk to like Elon Musk or like a Mark Zuckerberg type, they're talking about how they worked 100-hour weeks. They would literally wake up, work, order takeout, work, 100-hour week. It's not totally unrealistic, but what I want to say is I used to look at, okay, I have 12 projects going on and I'm going to divide my time into those 12 projects. Now I'm looking at it more like project seasons. Like, okay, I'm going to put these 9 projects off and I'm working on these 3 projects only for the next 3 months, and looking at how these timelines stack, and like looking at it, okay, I'm not working on my music album or my script until October. I'm working on solidifying my video production company and protocols until October. And then in October, then I can pare that down a little bit. I've got some assistants, and then I can integrate working on an album or a script, etc.
I wanted to jump in and say, like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they're working 100-hour weeks with the right strategy. If you have the wrong strategy, 100-hour weeks are horrible. Now, for you, in terms of like simplifying, self-advertising, whiteboard. You know, the wandering mind, the creative mind wants to go all over, but you need to take that and channel it. You get a whiteboard and you're advertising, hey man, like on my whiteboard, it says, shove my initials, NBC, gets better every day with accomplishing self-made goals with time management and daily consistency and intensity. Then it goes on to say, healthy attitude and excess is replaced with balance. So what that does is that creates an equilibrium where I know what I'm trying to do with each task and that I'm doing it in a healthy way so I can maintain that balance and I'm not falling out of line. But for you, getting a whiteboard, man, it's just like, you know, you listen to a song on the radio enough times, pop song, you're like, the first time you hear it, like, I don't really like that song. And you hear it another time, you start listening to it a little bit more. And by the fifth time, you're singing along and initially you didn't like it. They are advertising to you. And the brain gets comfortable through repetition.
Familiarity.
Repetition.
Absolutely. This is where
repetition.
The constant moving around creates the issue. Because I bought a whiteboard and I moved and I wasn't able to bring the whiteboard with me. So what I've actually done, for example, is notebook technique. So and then habits of mind. So one example, and I could even edit this into the program, into our episode here, but basically on Google Calendar, you can create a recurring event. So like I have a recurring event every day at 6 a.m. to 6:30, or sometimes I'll even make it only 5 minutes, like 6 a.m. to 6:05. And it's called Powerful Mornings. And it's a daily recurring event. And when I find motivational videos, or if I create an affirmations document on Google Drive, I can, in the description of that recurring daily event, I can put links. And so that way, because I want the habit of looking at my schedule in the morning, make sure I don't miss any meetings, looking at my schedule in the evening, making sure I don't miss any meetings, etc., I can then open up Powerful Mornings and have the links right there. Because that's one thing I thought is like, okay, so where is your organizational? Is it a Trello board? Is it an Asana? But you have to open these programs. You have to open these apps. How many different tabs you got to fucking open to be organized? For me, I open one. It's called Calendar. And in that is the pathway to all the other places. And so
smart, simplified.
Thank you. And so for me, that takes the place of what perhaps your whiteboard might take, because you can't put a whiteboard in a backpack.
Right. But what I wanted to say is because you travel so much and that's disrupted kind of your flow, you have the potential to create stronger habits of mind than most other people. That's a good way to look at it, because you're changing your environment and that's the only thing breaking your flow. But if you built the version of yourself that was able to stay grounded despite your changing environments, your habits would become infinitely stronger than the person that needs to be in the same space. So by looking at it like that, just like looking at a storm of saying, I'm in a storm, I need to swim, that's your storm. If you're moving around, but you're going, okay, this is a potential like steroid for your habits. You're going on these different places and you go, no matter where I go, I meditate, I check my thing, I do this, I that, I work out. So that's a cool way to look at it, because it's to the degree to which you feel powerless is also, and it's opposite, how much power you can feel. So if you feel like life is infinitely hopeless, there's a far end of that spectrum, and that's predicated on finding your habits, building the security of following them no matter what. Now, the no matter what is the big unknown because life happens. But the more you can find your ways of just doing it despite the circumstance, the stronger it becomes and the more likely you'll be able to persevere when you find yourself in a trying time.
Persevere when you find yourself in a trying time. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Just checking in. We're at about 50 minutes or so. And I think this has been a really cool episode. 10 is a pivotal moment, coming over the mountain of 10 episodes. Episode 8 is on my fried laptop. We'll see when I go back to the US if I'm able to recover it. And we could always re-record and call it number 8, and then go to 11 if we want to re-record with Richie.
Right.
But there's so many different ways. It's an infinite opportunity, infinite potential of how to edit this, how to brand it, how to structure it. I, as a filmmaker, I love all of the aspects of like, some people record their conversations, they don't have a background in film production. So they don't think about like, this is the camera on my laptop. So I got up and walked around because I wanted to break the fourth wall and show my location, show my dog, show the cafe, so like, not only is this just a podcast, but you're also like in a vloggy kind of lifestyle moment with me and my experience today. And so that being said, yeah, we're going to start clipping these up and editing them. We've got another 10 minutes to go. I loved your response about that. Great tactical ideas and frameworks for someone with, syndrome, aka dad bod, to be able to move towards a state of better physique. So the next thing I would ask you is, just coming off the cuff here, is what is your how have your personal goals related to your journey? So I know that you've done a lot of acting. You identify majorly as an actor, in addition to all the other caveats and strengths and skills that you have in the world. But as an actor, I know you've prepped for roles. You've gotten yourself shredded, perhaps for Batman and for some other things, some indie films you've done. And so how would you discuss the different goals that you've had and timelines that you've had to hit those goals and the challenges that you've overcome, whether it's caloric deficit or consistency or whatever that is, self-discipline? Talk about in context how you've applied some of those practical tactical approaches in order to hit your goals and what those goals have been for various periods of time in the last few years.
And I can make a great kind of connection. In fitness, right, it was about training, and then to get where I wanted, it was about nutrition. I had to put better materials into my body so I could train harder and get the aesthetic that I wanted. Same thing with film. The hardest thing about film is getting cast. So I had to evolve from just the dude that goes to the gym to someone that cooks, that researches, that tracks, that weighs, that does all that. So much in the same way in entertainment, I had to become a writer, I had to become a director, I had to become a producer and create the projects that were going to give me the roles that would allow me to shine. Now, granted, it's a longer process. Nothing is given. Whereas in fitness, if you eat the right things, you track it, you train hard, you'll get results. Within entertainment, there's no guarantee that you're going to get funding for those stories and characters that you create. But the more that you expand your repertoire of what you can do, the greater potentiality you have to realize that dream. So it's the same thing. It's knowing where you want to go, having a destination, having a vision, and that having the awareness, having the strategy, being consistent, and then being intense with your emotions and your creative efforts. It's the same thing. And I would argue that it's the same thing with business, and it's the same thing with with anything that you can progress at, because it's a process, and coming back to staying grounded. How we use language is so useful. Oh, I have to go work out. I get to work out. Oh, that's different. Having, some people say you won't get what you want until your haves become your needs or whatever. But I think the more you can appeal to the sense of freedom internally, the more you'll allow that energy to be creative. And so I like three things. There's an Australian fitness, I think she's like a fitness model. Her name is Hattie Boydell. Super smart chick. She has this program called the Sports Model Project. It's for women, but I follow it because the language and the way she structures language is so good. She says, you get to be organized, you get to be disciplined, and you get to be process driven. And within those three elements, you have everything. Organization creates clarity. Discipline creates consistency, and process driven allows you to be present in the moment at your current stage in your development because it's ongoing.
Process driven. Yeah, there's so many layers there, man. So any specifics about different roles that you've prepped for? And I had 3 months to improve my six pack, or I had a target weight that I wanted to achieve and I was able to do that. Just any examples of how you applied your formulas to hit specific goals?
100%. So start early. So I was prepping for a character in a series that I helped create called Reward, Seven Hills. And the character I play is a detective who is addicted to a substance that's slowly killing him. And, you can't look robust and super strong and play a drug addict. So I did a lean bulk in November where I ate at a surplus. I got up to 200 pounds. And then I went, okay, in December, I'm going to cut, knowing the target date was like March 17th for production. And my goal was I want to look unrecognizable. I'm growing my hair out. I'm growing my beard. And I want to get down to around 170 pounds. So 4 months to lose 30 pounds. And I did it. I hit my mark. Unfortunately, we didn't have funding. We couldn't go into production. But I knew every day that, hey, this is how much I'm going to consume. This is how many steps I'm going to get. And along that, I was, also prepping the character. And for me, I really like to work outside in, meaning the physicality, the breath, the voice, and then that will kind of reveal the psychology. It's not as straightforward as that, but I found early on in my stand-up, when I did stand-up, I talked to as an Australian, I started to feel more free, and I felt more friendly, and I felt more extroverted, and I felt like I could be way more expressive. And that was changing my voice, changed the way I thought. So a lot of actors will go inside out, change the psychology, and work outward. I like to start with the appearance. I like to start with the voice and the breath, because those things instantly can change the circuitry in your brain. And I did that with this character, Gino Sterling. I has a lisp, a slight lisp, where he talks a little bit more. It's more focused. The mouth is smaller. The breath is more shallow. Lose the weight, longer hair and beard. But just consistently doing something every day and not taking a day off. That's the thing. Like, I was obsessed. I was doing a self-hypnosis that was 20 minutes long first thing in the morning. I was reading for 20 minutes in this voice. I was prepping the psychology. I was helping edit and write scripts. And it was just, I loved it. It was all consuming. And, when it got derailed, that's not a healthy way to be. That's not healthy. It's fun. It's the romanticism of being burnt out and then transcending that burnout and just going levels deeper, deeper, deeper. But overall, I mean, it's a fun process. When you get past the idea of not being able to work like nonstop for 3 months, man, you find greater depths and greater levels of expression and ability that, until you go through it, you won't experience it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everything is subjective. Everything is relative to the person that's experiencing it. Thank you for sharing, some of those insights and some of those processes and experiences. Amazing, to change your physical form, to change your appearance, to change your body in that way, from mass and appearance, and then the language stuff. I imagining you reading in a specific voice for 20 minutes out loud. That's a very interesting, tactical, practical approach to creating the habit and the physical behavior, and being making it almost that unconscious, like you do something 1,000 times and then you just do it without thinking. I did 3 months last year. Actually, it might have been 4 months, where I was brushing my teeth with my non-dominant hand, which I had never done before, and that was a really cool behavior change. And yeah, changing behavior, self-control, and I think that's a major leap in personal evolution, is getting to a state in life where you realize that you are in control of yourself and you do have the ability to change. Like you said, don't take a cheat day for 3 months. When I hear that, there's the first part of me that's like, that's impossible. But it's not. And it's training oneself to believe in, with 100% certainty, absolute certainty, that you're able to do what you set out to do. I enjoy cognitive warm up. Like, I feel like, my ability to speak linearly right now, I feel like my brain is warmed up. My speaking is warmed up. I've practiced, because I'm using the space bar to unmute. So I'm on and I'm off of the dialogue. So I'm listening to you intently for long periods of time, and then going into my share and my response. And it's a cool process of personal evolution, and thinking about all of these different topics. So yeah, Damien, thank you so much for sharing, your, fitness journey, a bit about your acting, your mental frameworks that you utilize to harness your best self. I'm so excited about this project that we're working on. I think as we develop this further, we're going to get into more flow and keep the behind the scenes stuff out of the chat. But for now, we're, as we talk about evolution now, we're also talking about the evolution of this project, and how this looks and sounds, and how we share and what we share. And so I'm getting intrigued listening to you speak and looking at your frame, and because I've just edited this virtual summit where it was 90 videos, and they were all recorded on Zoom of varying quality. There were like PhD doctorate people from England who were like, they're like this, and they're talking, and it's just like, it's like, and the audio's poor, and it's like, it's interesting that it's the substance and not the presentation, when the substance is valuable. And I think there's a lot of valuable substance that you're bringing to these recordings that we're doing. And there's moments where I'm excited to grab 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, even 2 minutes of what you're talking about, and chop them out and get them out there, because I think people are going to relate. People are going to really appreciate a lot of these insights and ideas that we're discussing, and then also just the rawness of this journey of like, what is it, creating a podcast, and getting messy and getting better. We've gotten over our hour target again, which is amazing. And, I'm so excited that we're showing up and we've done it. This is episode 10. And to our listeners out there, anybody watching this, now or in the future, thanks for being here with us on this journey. Thanks for being here, listening to this conversation. I hope that you got a lot of value out of it, and inspiration and encouragement to continue on your journey of personal evolution. As always, keep growing. And, Damien, thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you for setting all this stuff up and applying all your experience with tech and branding and social media and online so that we can do this, because without you, JJ, we wouldn't have this. So again, the utmost gratitude to you. Thank you for asking great questions and making it a great podcast and allowing us to progress in this journey. So I'm excited. We didn't get to touch upon yoga, which is your expertise, and mindfulness, which I think we can do next week, because I know you bring a lot to the table, and I'm super curious because I've done this much yoga compared to everything you've done. So getting to jump into that next week and having you take the lead will be great. And again, just awesome to share this project with you and to keep going with this journey and to apply the discipline and consistency that's allowing us to go into the unknown. So until next week, my brother, keep growing.
Keep growing.